Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
The first one is titled, My 41M. Wife's 37F. Mental illness has devastated our relationship and I don't know what to do for the best. We have been married for 7 years and together in total for 14. Before we got married, my wife exhibited some anxiety and unusual behavior, stressed and a little paranoid about certain things. I had literally no experience in this and attributed it to her stressful job that she often talked about. We got married and I naively thought that security would help allay some of her fears. She left that job, with my and her family's blessing and encouragement, shortly after we married. This steadily got worse and around 18 months later she was sectioned and spent 3 weeks in hospital. She had been delusional, having hallucinations and was paranoid and suffering from persecutory thoughts. I discovered a letter from a solicitor demanding money and found out she'd been overspending and had got herself into debt. The medical aftercare post-release was non-existent and she soon stopped taking her medication. We struggled on for a couple of years until she had another crisis. She was put under the care of the crisis team who were great. She started meds again and saw a therapist and psychiatrist. She was extremely anxious at this time and scared of me. Her voices told her that I was against her, etc. So to try to alleviate the immediate stress, her care team suggested that I stayed in our spare room to give each other space, which I happily did to try to make things easier. As time went on, things calmed down and we returned to some semblance of normality, but we'd got into a routine, and I stayed in the spare room. I didn't want to pressure her and potentially derail her recovery. She was unable to work, which is fine, completely understandable. So we were on one income, but she got into financial trouble again, but this time on my debit and credit cards. I knew it was happening but was powerless to stop it. Then one day she announced she was stopping taking her medication and would no longer see her care team. She had not fully recovered and within weeks I saw her symptoms returning, delusions, hallucinations, etc. All the same things from her original psychosis diagnosis. We kept up appearances and plodded on, until I found more overspending. I tried again to put a stop to it, but she got extremely angry and hit me. Her illness took over and she accused me of forging bank statements, colluding with the bank, lying and committing fraud, etc. That completely knocked me back into my shell and I was unable to stop her spending until the money literally ran out. When that happened she was surprised, denied any responsibility and accused me of spending it all. I have now finally managed to largely rein her spending in by denying her access to my cards, but it's been incredibly stressful as I've had to borrow from family and the bank to cover it. So, another 18-odd month later and here we are. She still has her symptoms. We're still in separate rooms. She's, understandably, unable to work. We have managed to talk about things a couple of times, and she point-blank refuses to go back to the doctor or start taking medication. She refuses to go to couples counseling with me. We've both said it can't carry on like this. I feel after 5 years of this that I can't take much more. We would have liked to have started a family, but that's impossible now. Our lives are wasting away, stuck in this rut. We had a serious talk about a month ago where we all but separated, but then she kind of rode back on the idea. I still love her, and I know none of this is her fault. I know no one chooses to be ill and I know it's worse for her than me. I worry how she'd cope if we split. Her parents are nearby but she's pushed them away over the last few years, but they would absolutely support her, and I feel terrible about potentially not abiding by my marriage vows. She has no friends at all and has alienated her extended family with some behavior related to her illness. I'm not even sure she totally understands the ramifications of separating. She said she would stay in the house, but she has no means of paying the bills. Her parents are comfortable, but I don't think they could buy me out and they couldn't fund her indefinitely. Neither of us are doing the other any favors prolonging this as it is. I feel so guilty and responsible. I often wonder what it is about me that may have made her like this. I don't want to split, but staying like this is untenable. I can't force her to get help, and I don't want another 5 years to pass with no improvement and the best years of my, and her, life gone. I don't know what to do for the best. A user in the comments said, she can't help having the mental illness, but she can help control the symptoms with medication. Not taking meds is a deliberate choice she made. She isn't helping herself, so it doesn't matter how much effort you or anyone else puts into helping her. You would only be bashing yourself against a wall over and over again, doing her no good and doing yourself emotional harm. It sounds like it's time to end it for your own mental well-being. Maybe she'll get better, maybe she won't, but her mental health is not your responsibility. Another user said, source: I have severe bipolar disorder and will be on heavy meds for the rest of my life. I'm 40, and my last relationship broke up because my partner understandably couldn't deal with my illness, and I now live with my parents. I can't work and struggle just with daily functioning. Although I don't have the same illness as your wife, I feel like I can relate to the situation a bit. From the perspective of someone who is mentally ill, if your wife won't even take her medication and actively continue treatment, there is nothing you can do. I'm going to assume the meds she was taking were antipsychotics. People often don't like to take their antipsychotics because of the side effects, so compliance is often a problem. If she doesn't like the way they make her feel, it will always be a struggle to get her to take them. Also, medication can't always cure symptoms 100%, so even with the best medication there is, even if she takes the meds, your wife could still have symptoms. Disorders like schizophrenia are neurological, not psychological. You can't fix them with therapy alone, only drugs. It doesn't get better, but over time can get worse if she refuses treatment. It also has genetic factors, so if you were to have children with her, there's a strong chance they could inherit the same disorder, or at least they'd be more vulnerable to developing it later in life. You've already done everything you can possibly do. The way you're living it isn't sustainable. You can't make her comply with treatment, and even if you could, you can't guarantee the treatment will work well enough to save your relationship. As for me, I'm on 10 different medications, I've had years of therapy, and I meditate every day, and that just keeps me stable enough not to hurt myself. I still can't function all the way like a normal person. And that's with me being compliant. You continuing to be the martyr for more years is not going to help her or save your relationship. I'm so sorry for what you're going through and wish you the best. I hope you do whatever is best for you. The next one is titled, Update: My wife's mental illness has devastated our relationship, and it's come to a head. So, my wife has suffered from psychosis, anxiety, delusions and paranoia for several years now, and it has had a terrible effect on our relationship. Last night she felt unwell, had a rash and had a bad nightmare, which prompted her to call non-emergency medical services in the morning. They sent out paramedics this morning to talk to her. I didn't know they were coming. I heard people knock at the door and then heard them talking to her, so I worked out what was going on. I had been upstairs on the phone to family. I could hear most of what was being said and was keen to hear their take on the situation and whether they would want to take my wife for psychological assessment. She'd been sectioned and detained before. At that stage, one didn't want to interrupt the conversation. It was clear the conversation was more about mental health than the physical sickness, rash. I heard my wife recounting the bullying circumstances which led to her leaving her job and her mental breakdown 6 years ago. During that conversation, I heard her say that she'd had a work romance with a manager from her office back then and had spent the night with him twice. This would have been before we were married and whilst we had previously been temporarily separated during a break. She'd never told me any of this. I made sure I'd heard and understood properly and went downstairs to discuss it. The paramedics were still there. I didn't want her to be able to outright deny what she'd said. They basically said she should see her GP to discuss options around treatment for her mental illness. It was awkward for them, so they finished the consultation as it were and left. I asked my wife what had happened and repeated her own words to her. She said she'd had a crush and that had developed, and he acted on it when she had gone to his hotel room during a conference. Apparently he'd subsequently denied it. He is married, kids. She said she didn't really want to do it but did, but it was consensual. It transpires her parents knew, and also kept it from me. She then said that she thought it happened but is not 100% sure because her mental illness means she has very real-seeming delusions. She has previously said things about me and her family that were not true. This was apparently also while we were separated, but she seemed to say it was building during the time we were together. So, whether she physically cheated is moot. Certain emotional cheating though. When we got back together after our temporary separation, I had moved out. We both said that we had been faithful during that period. Conveniently, she doesn't remember that conversation. It was all calm. I said I had it right to know back in 2010 and she let me propose in 2011 and marry her in 2012, all the while I didn't know. We said we can't carry on, and that she would talk to her parents about buying me out of my half of the house. She asked if we could live together in a civil way during this period. I said I couldn't afford to rent and pay the mortgage and bills, so we'll have to. She said I should contact a lawyer to talk about the divorce. She said she was sorry her mental health has caused all these problems and she wanted me to be able to get on with my life. I felt sad for her when she said that. So, this stage of it has come to an end, finally. I feel strangely calm. It's not really a surprise, although I didn't really expect infidelity. It feels surreal. I still love her. I love this house. But this is for the best, I think. It's not been working for years and the problems we face have been insurmountable. I'm finally defeated. I just hope the separation can be amicable and fair. The next one is titled, My M26 Wife, F26, Isn't Happy. My wife and I met close to 6 years ago. Crazy over each other and really intimate. After we got engaged, the intimacy started to die down, and a couple months before the wedding my wife cut off all sexual acts, stating she wanted to wait until we got married. After getting married, that didn't change. She stated she just didn't have the hormones she had when we were young and crazy, and her sexual drive just wasn't there. I also thought it could be related to her weight gain, self-esteem issues, but I just said as long as nothing was wrong with us I can live with it. The first year of marriage turned out to be terrible. A lot of arguments and disagreements. She got a job offer where she had to leave 2 hours away for training and ended up being there for months and making no effort to come back home. She eventually told me she wasn't happy. She said she felt like I was not holding my weight around the house, and she always had to tell me what to do. So, I really worked on changing and managed to contribute a lot more around the house, laundry, cleaning, cooking, and so on. Things drastically changed and it seemed to be back to normal and even better. Still not really intimate. The second year came around and we seemed to be continuing to do well. We got involved in activities together and didn't really fight much at all. The only problem was she wanted to move. She had a lot of bad memories from the area she grew up in and wanted to get away from there. So, we agreed to move, and she wanted to move back to my hometown. So, we did. We ended up moving in with my parents for a couple months to save up and look for a house. It wasn't easy because obviously we are living in someone else's house and trying to abide by their living styles. My wife and stepmom weren't vibing well because my stepmom said she didn't contribute around the house like everyone else and was lazy. After about 3 months total, we ended up moving out and into a house we bought together. After about a month in the house, her father flew up with her niece to stay and visit. Well, coronavirus hit and they ended up staying for a month and a half because they couldn't get flights back. It was fine, but we weren't very intimate while her father was here. I expected that. Anyways, her father finally finds a flight back, but her niece ends up staying here for a couple months so we can watch her while her father works. I agreed to it, but it did put some stress into our marriage. Nothing seemed wrong though. We still weren't fighting and just seemed like we were working through things together. Well, about 3 weeks ago my wife sits me down and says she is unhappy and doesn't feel in love, but she loves me. She feels like we are just great roommates and can get stuff done. She doesn't like that we aren't intimate, and she feels like we just don't have a romantic connection. I'm puzzled because I addressed that shortly after we were married, and when I brought that up she said she just didn't realize it until now. On top of that, I am always taking her out on dates and spending time with her. So, it wasn't like I neglected that romantic part of our relationship. So, we agreed to get some marriage books and try that. If that doesn't work, move to counseling. We got the books about a week ago. I've been reading and learning new things to apply, but when I talk to her about things we can try, she gets defensive and says things like, "You think you're the guru now." And when I asked her if she has read any of the books, she said she hasn't been reading. She said she doesn't even feel like fixing things. She doesn't know what she wants to do. I keep telling her I can put 110% into this, but if she doesn't put any effort into it, our marriage will continue to fail. I'm just so confused. I have been working so hard and putting forth so much effort. I work from home, I do 80% of the housework, cook the meals, take care of our niece, take care of the pets, pay the bills, read through these marriage books, and still make time for her when she gets home to try and fulfill her needs. I don't know what else to do. Can someone give me guidance? I feel like I am being a great spouse, but am I just blind to my own shortcomings? I really want to fix it and will do whatever it takes. Thank you for taking time to read through all this and help. A user in the comments said, "Maybe you are a great spouse, and she isn't. Emo, you got married far too young and now you are learning why that isn't wise. You've made it pretty clear that she's not interested in fixing things, so is this effort on your part really worth it? She doesn't love you, bro. Find someone who does." Another user said, "You are 26 years old. Get the hell out of this marriage and go be happy. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Don't waste it trying to make things work with someone who isn't in love with you, doesn't want to be intimate with you, and seems to have been manipulating you since before you even married her." The next one is titled, "Update. My M26 wife, F26, is not happy." Thank you everyone for the advice from the original post. I just wanted to give the community an update. My wife finally got back yesterday from leaving to go see her sister. We talked for a little bit yesterday, but still came to the same thing she has been telling me. She doesn't want to be with me because she doesn't feel in love, emotionally connected, or intimate towards me. She views me as a friend. I told her she needed to choose: either we work on this and go to counseling, or it's a divorce and we cut ties. She couldn't decide and said to give her the weekend. This morning I woke up early, made her breakfast and brought it to her in bed. Then took her out to eat for lunch and dessert, trying to just spark anything to see if she would agree to work on it. Well, we sat down again after getting back and she said she wanted a divorce, and she was 100% on that. It was tough. A lot of crying, sadness, hurt, and all the emotions one would feel. I ended up just going to my room and she left for the night. I decided to get out and do something, so I jogged and listened to some music for a bit. It helped. I came to the realization that we all have such little time on earth, and I don't want to waste it moping around. I want to improve myself physically, emotionally, and mentally. I want to just enjoy life and find myself again. So, I'm going to do that, and one day I might meet someone who is perfect to continue the journey of life with me. So, I'm still sad and hurt, but all that to say I'm moving forward and trying to be positive. Thank you all for your support. The next one is titled, "Am I being too insecure about my girl, 28, working with this fitness trainer?" Okay, so my fiancé, F28, and I, M28, went to a small get-together hosted by her brother. My girl puts on a short dress. The hem comes to about mid-thigh. I only mention this because I let her know it's supposed to rain that evening, but she says it doesn't matter. I don't think much else since it was the weekend, and she likes to dress nice. So, at this dinner party is Tim, 34, a married guy who's a fitness trainer. Tim has always been a flirt, and he might cheat on his wife, but I don't worry about it since he's my future brother-in-law's friend, not mine. At dinner, my girl tells Tim she needs to lose some stomach fat before the wedding. She's been saying this for a year. He says he can help, and that she looks real flexible, so he'll show her some stretches. It seemed like he was trying to help, but I didn't like how he was saying it. But I trust my girl, so I tried having fun. We all go outside for a smoke, me and Tim don't smoke, and a strong gust of wind comes, and my girl's dress blows up, revealing her underwear. She and everyone laughed. Then Tim says, "You put on a nice show." I'll say now Tim had previously told me I was lucky to be marrying such a beautiful woman. I'll add that Tim is 6 inches taller and probably has 50 pounds on me. He's not someone I'd want to fight. Anyway, as the night was concluding, the group went out to smoke again, and I stayed inside on account it was raining and I was tired of the cigarettes. Everybody comes back inside except Tim and my girl. I hear Tim accidentally spilled all his soda on my girl and she felt sticky. My girl and Tim come back inside 5 minutes later, and she's now dressed in a jumpsuit of his. My girl looks at me and laughs and says she's had terrible luck. I'm annoyed, so we leave. Before we go, Tim says to her, "I'll message you on Facebook and we'll get together for a session at the gym." This a hole looks at me and says, "Sorry, I made her all wet tonight." My girl says in the car that he meant it literally, and he was just apologizing. I ask about Facebook, and she revealed they've been friends for a month, even though she thinks he's too much. At home, I noticed she didn't have her dress with her. She left it at Tim's, who said he would wash it. Our washer needs to be fixed. She took off her pants and I saw she was commando. She had given Tim her panties too after she changed in his bedroom. My girl and I have been together 4 years. And I love her, and she's never given me a reason to be doubtful. Her and Tim were only alone for 7 minutes at most, but I feel paranoid about the future. When I brought it up to her, she said I was crazy and initiated sex. Am I crazy, or untrusting? Update. So, I told my girl that if we're to stay together she has to cut off all contact with Tim. This meant her defriending him and blocking his number on her phone. She started crying and said I was right. When she went to work out with him, she said she felt uncomfortable in a way where she knew he wanted more than friendship. I also told Tim's wife about my girl's dress. It turns out Tim told his wife that night and she wasn't worried about it. She didn't think there was anything inappropriate about that or the underwear. To each their own. Also, my girl called her brother, and with me there, said she never wanted to be around Tim and that he had creeped her out. In the future, if we go over to his place, Tim won't be there. Lastly, my girl was totally apologetic about not taking my concerns seriously. Even so, our wedding is on hold indefinitely. I let her know I love her, but I have some serious concerns that only time can address. So, we're just taking it day by day. Thanks to everyone for your thoughts and kind words. A user in the comments said, "As a woman, I can say that it's obvious what Tim is doing, and your girlfriend knows this. She's loving the attention from him and possibly wanting to see where it could lead, and now she's going to start working out with this guy while it's obvious he's trying to pursue her. I would tell her that you're not comfortable with this and her reaction will tell you a lot. Who's she going to choose? Her boyfriend or some random gym bro she's only known for a month? Also, the underwear thing is sketchy and your girlfriend acting like it's normal is sketchier." Another user said, "Your GF has serious boundary issues. In what world does she live that she thinks giving her panties to another man is okay? No world that actual humans exist on. Your relationship will forever be defined by this moment." This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.